MSUTV is on the air, bringing you the best student-produced educational, entertaining, and informative programming. Broadcasting out of Breckenridge Hall on the campus of Morehead State University, MSUTV is signing on.
I will not spin plates to make everyone happy.
I will not duck to avoid hitting the glass ceiling.
I will not stay in a small box where I cannot control my life.
I will not just stand on the sidelines and cheer the team on.
I will not carry ancestral baggage, fearful that if I lay down, there will be no purpose in my life.
I will not do something well that doesn't make me happy.
I will not speak so softly that my voice is not heard.
I will not sit at home while others experience the world.
I will not wear masks to avoid being seen fully or upsetting others.
I will not convince myself that tomorrow will suffice when it comes to following my bliss.
I will not play follow the leader unless I am the leader.
Follow your bliss.
Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Hear Me Roar. This is actually our last episode. I'm your host, Angela Hardesty.
And I'm Angela's co-host, Shelby Steele.
On today's episode, we're actually going to have Dr. Bernadette Barton in the studio. She's a doctor of sociology and women's studies here at MSU, and she's going to be in the studio to discuss with us her upcoming book, Pray the Gay Away, The Extraordinary Lives of Bible Belt Gays. We'll have more from that when we come back from our commercial break.
Do you need a way to find new music? Tune in to WPRC. Also hosts with us, Signal in the Sky, featuring new and current independent artists. Eric Riddle's Electro World, featuring dubstep and electronica. Tanner Boyd's Laugh, a great comedy show, full of laughs and gags. Derek Moore's Moorhead Metal Vault, a headbanger's delight, loud and in your face. Tyler Mullen's Bluegrass Connection, a classic experience and instrumental tradition. WPRC, great radio-style entertainment. Tune into the show, broadcasting on Channel 77 starting at 6 p.m. Also, check us out on Facebook.
And we're back. Hi, Dr. Barton. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Angela, Shelby. It's a real pleasure to be on Hear Me Roar. I'm a big fan of the show.
Yay. Well, we're really looking forward to the appearance of your new book, Pray the Gay Away, and I would love it if you would elaborate on that book.
Well, there's nothing I like talking about more than my forthcoming book. So, yes, the book is about the experiences of gay men and lesbians who live in the Bible Belt, and this is a region that encompasses all the way from, but mostly all the southern states constitutes the Bible Belt. And it's a region that is characterized by high religiosity. So a larger percentage of the people here in the Bible Belt consider themselves to be conservative Christians than in other parts of the country. So what I was interested in exploring is what does it mean to grow up in an area of the country where conservative Christian ideology and practices have a larger impact on people's lived experiences.
Is there a certain experience that you went through that got you started with writing this book?
That's a great question. So I actually got interested in this work in 2004. I bet you all were kind of young at that time, 2004. Well, the election, it was between George W. Bush and John Kerry, and there were all these anti-gay marriage amendments on the ballot. And there was an anti-gay marriage amendment on the ballot here in Kentucky. And so I started work in Morehead in 2000, but I began living in Kentucky in 1992. But it was in 2002 that I moved to Winchester, and that change from Lexington to Winchester in terms of the political values of the people that I was around was really different. Okay, so it's 2004 and I'm living in Winchester, and all of a sudden there's all these signs all over the place, anti-gay marriage signs, vote yes on this amendment, and 1 man plus 1 woman equals marriage, and marrying a same-sex partner was compared to marrying your dog or marrying your cousin. And so it was like a lot of political hate speech, and I was just so surprised by it. So I was like, wow, this is kind of shocking. And then I was starting to get mad, like, this is just ridiculous, I thought we were past this. And I also had an experience when I first moved to Winchester that surprised me. I'm originally from Massachusetts, and then I lived in a bunch of places, but I had previously lived in San Francisco before I moved to Lexington, although I'd been in a heterosexual relationship at that point, and I came heterosexually identified to Lexington, started grad school. And when I came here, it was like I was surrounded by lesbians in Lexington. All the women in my grad program, many of them were lesbians. My supervisor was a lesbian. My RA, my research advisor, was a lesbian. It was my landladies were lesbians. I mean, everybody. I was like, oh, I just didn't even think anything of it. I'm like, oh, it's sort of like San Francisco. So when I came out, I got together with my current partner, and I've been with her for 14 years. Anyway, we moved to Winchester to be closer to Moorhead, so the commute wouldn't be so bad. And I was in the backyard. I was digging in my vegetable garden, planting some pepper and tomato plants. And our yard borders a 92-year-old who has a huge yard. It's kind of a little bit rural. It's a small town, but sort of rural. So she had a man from her church there tilling her plot for the season. He was helping her out. And he saw me kind of digging the soil, and he offered to come over and till. And I was like, oh no, but then I was like, oh well, why not? Free yard labor, I was easy to convince. So he came over with his tiller and he tilled the plot, and then he asked me if I was married. And I said, I didn't know, it's hard to answer that question, right? So I said no, and then he asked me what church I went to. And I said, and here I am coming from Lexington, and I was like, what the heck? So I said, I'm in a lesbian relationship, and the churches around here are not very supportive of it. And he said, it's an abomination to me in my yard. And so it just freaked me out. I was like shocked and horrified. And maybe it's not so shocking to you, and it's certainly not the most horrifying thing that I've ever heard. I've heard many, many, many worse stories. That's just like on a scale of 1 to 10, this would be like a 0.2 in terms of bad. But I was freaked out. And then we talked for a while, and I was trying to get him out of my yard. He wouldn't leave, and finally he left, and I was just so surprised. And so I talked to Anna about it, of course, and she was like, why'd you let him in the yard? And then I talked to my parents, and my mom was like, you should move back here, it isn't safe for you there. And she lives in Massachusetts. And then my gay friends in New York were like, it's just not safe living in Winchester, Kentucky. I can't visit you. I'll be attacked walking down the street. And then I told my gay friends in Kentucky, and they were like, duh, where do you think you've been living all this time? So I had this just spectrum of responses. And I was like, well, everybody has a good point. And I want to know more about what this is like. What does it mean to grow up bathed in this ideology one's whole life? What does that mean? Because I'm definitely more of an outsider to this.
Well, we'll definitely get back to that because we're really getting into some interesting stuff here. But when we come back from our commercial break, we're going to have a look at a package that I put together from a few of my peers that explained what their experiences were like, whether being homosexual or being friends with homosexuals. So we'll have that when we come back.
I'm so freaking bored.
I cannot handle another hour of the Kardashians.
I wish we'd go bowling.
Me too.
Great.
Your wish has come true. Wilson Lanes, located inside a Laughlin Health Building on campus, has 6 lanes of pure bowling fun. And now with automated scoring. $2 per game and a $1 shoe rental. How could you pass this up?
Foul thoughts.
Well, you can do that if you want.
I think that people in this region, in the Bible Belt, who are gay or bisexual or homosexual, I feel like they undergo a lot of scrutiny. I feel like they live this life of secrets, and because they can't tell somebody, and if they do tell someone, you always have that thing of, oh, are they going to tell someone who I don't want to find out, and then am I going to be judged for this? And it's just that judgment that is why people that I think are homosexual or bisexual have a really hard time with it, because they don't want to be judged. And we shouldn't judge people for, you know, what they are or what their sexual orientation is, but for who they are as a person.
In this region is a lot different from where I came from. Obviously, I graduated in 2003 and I was shoved in lockers and everything else, and so I've had a rough past, but it's made me a stronger person today. And in this region, it's a lot different. I would have to say that people are scared because it's different, it's unique, it's out of the norm, and everybody looks at it as a sexual thing instead of a companion thing. So people kind of look at it as disgusting, but it's not. We're all human beings. We just love who we love, and some people just don't understand that. And I think a little bit more education, a little bit more openness could actually affect a better quality in this region.
And we're back. I know that we didn't have studio sound, but what Erin McComas was talking about in the package was how her take on being homosexual, it's not just a sexual experience, like a sexual preference, but it's also a companion, and how everybody is taking it as this huge, it's a disgusting thing, and that people aren't looking at it the same way. And another student that wouldn't be on the package explained to me that she would rather tell her parents that she's pregnant than that if she was gay. And I was curious if you had anything to say about that, if that's surprising to you or if that strikes a nerve.
Well, I have a lot to say. I'm not surprised that somebody would rather tell their parents that they're pregnant than that they're gay. I mean, obviously it depends on the parents. But a lot of young people have parents who have been socialized that through their religious backgrounds that being gay is an abomination, like, you know, my neighbor told me, and they have told their children that I mean, I had interview subjects say, sitting at the dinner table, they had the mom say to the whole family, any child that comes out to me as gay is dead to me. I interviewed folks that had been kicked out and ostracized for being gay. I mean, so that's a very, very scary thing. I mean, that's a terrifying thing, to think that your own mom is not going to love you anymore if you're gay. And I mean, I could go on. I'll share two more dreadful stories. One, I was giving a public lecture at a university in Kentucky, and I was sitting with the Gay Straight Alliance students, and I asked them to share their coming out stories. And the woman to my right said, my mother came at me with a butcher knife. Which is just the most horrifying thing you can imagine. I mean, it's just so terrifying. I mean, you can't even think of your mom that way. It's like unbelievable. And so that I'm not at all surprised to hear someone say that it would be easier to tell their parents that they were pregnant. And the thing with homosexuality in the Bible is that it has what Irving Goffman calls a sticky stigma, which means that it attaches to other people. So if you're heterosexual and you're friends with a gay person, sometimes people suspect you're gay. And if you're the parents of a gay child, other people will look at you and think you did something to make your child gay, and it's like you're going to carry the stigma. I actually talked to a woman who, when her daughter came out as a lesbian, not only was her daughter kicked out of the church, she was kicked out of the church for having a lesbian daughter.
Do you have any advice for people that are having trouble coming out? Can you offer them some?
Sure, I have lots of advice, and I guess and I often tell these horror stories, and I'm like, oh, you should come out. But I mean, no, I don't. So that you have to be strategic when you come out. If you have homophobic parents, you want to be careful. I mean, especially if you're in college and they're supporting you. I mean, wait until you're financially independent. But to the degree that a person can come out and can accept themselves, come out to their close friends, find a partnership. I mean, I think that my advice is to try to shake off all the negative stuff that you've ever heard about homosexuality and just let it fade away and celebrate your coming out as a gift and a journey, because there's something so exciting about being able to discover oneself and to be free of gender constraints. So one chapter in my book actually is all about what is valuable about being gay. And there was just so many stories of things that interview subjects found to be valuable. I mean, at the very least, it allows you to get into alignment with yourself. You know, you get to actually choose your life and live the life that you want to live. And that's very freeing in our culture.
Is there any positive experiences that might help encourage people out there that might be closeted?
Well, I'm out, and I'm out everywhere all the time. I'm out to my students, I'm out in the classroom, I'm out to my colleagues, I'm out to the institution, and the institution, Morehead State, has been very supportive of my work, and I'm extremely appreciative of that. And I think I'm treated really well. Sometimes when I come out in an introductory sociology class, for example, with 50 students, when I say partner and then I say she, some of the students look a little bit shocked, you know, but they totally get used to it. I mean, it just doesn't take but 2 days before they seem like it's already, you know, water under the bridge. I mean, I've had a couple of bad evaluations, I think, because of it and stuff, but yeah, but it's okay. I mean, the benefits of coming out far outweigh the costs of the closet, in my opinion.
Well, speaking of your classes, you're teaching a new class, Sociology 399, Religion, Sexuality, Transformation. And that's a special interest class that probably might attract a lot of the gay population at our school. If you'd like to talk about that.
Sure. My book is coming out October 1st, and so I wanted to teach a class that I was able to use my book in, and that also could explore elements of religion that were other than just conservative Christianity. So I wanted to look at religion and sexuality, not just how conservative Christianity constrains gay people, but just sort of the spectrum of religion and the spectrum of sexuality. And if we have time after the break, I could also get back to that first question you had about people's confusion about what sexual orientation is and what sexual orientation means, because I think that might be helpful. But I'm going to do some sexology, some stuff on sexual behavior. My previous work was on exotic dancers. So I have, I'm a sexologist. I have an expertise in the sex industry and sexual behavior and sexual desire and sexual identity. So in this course, we're going to talk about not only conservative Christianity, but also other sorts of spiritual practices, and sort of place our sexual selves within those and explore how, when we're free of certain kinds of social constraints, that can be very transformative.
Well, if I was not graduating, I would probably take this class. But thank you so much, Dr. Barton, for coming on the show. It was very nice having you. And when we come back from this commercial break, we're going to look at a package that I put together from this year's Judy Rogers Media Competition Award Ceremony, hosted, and our special guest was Dr. Martha Decker. So we'll have that when we come back.
Morehead State Career Services offers services and resources to partner with you in your career decision-making process with things like MSU JobLink, individual career counseling, Eagles in Flight certification program, and the Suit Bank. Don't forget about our career fair, March 13th in the Krager Room of ADUC from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Morehead State University's new state-of-the-art Recreation and Wellness Center offers you the opportunity to get in shape. Come enjoy our track overlooking the basketball courts, or take our bikes, ellipticals, treadmills, Stairmasters, and other cardio machines for a spin to help you break a sweat. And once you've worked up and breathing, pump some iron down in our weight room. Come visit MSU's new Recreation Wellness Center, open 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. on weekdays today.
Occupy yourself. There is a way. There is a way between voice and presence. There is a way between voice and presence where information flows. In disciplined silence, it opens. Where wandering talk, with wandering talk, it closes. There is a way between voice and presence where information flows. In disciplined silence, it opens. With wandering talk, it closes. And that's from Rumi, and I'll be reading. The quantum physicists are telling us that we can actually slow down time. How could that be? When we practice what I'm suggesting here in just a few minutes, of actually disciplining ourselves to stay in the present moment, everything seems to expand. Perhaps you've had that experience of being somewhere where time just seems to disappear. Well, let me tell you how this got started. Back when all this movements, Occupy Wall Street and other cities began, I had actually some friends who were participating. I had one in Manhattan, actually. And another was Michael McGuire. He's director of the Children's Home in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And this is really where this all started. Because this was just after a very close friend of mine had passed away. And Michael and I were together in North Carolina where my friend John had died. And he had called, I was at John's house, and he had called to see if he could come over. And he said he just wanted to come and sit in his chair. And I thought that was kind of strange. But that's what he did. And for over an hour, my friend Michael came, and he went out and was simply sitting there and being in the chair where John had spent so many hours. And then he told me about the night before when he had been sitting in his living room, and he was remembering that John, well, actually he was worried. He said when he first was realizing this, he was worried because he wanted to get involved with this Occupy movement, and he wanted to get it started in Winston-Salem, and he thought, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And he said, I was sitting in my chair in my living room, and he said, I just remember John, and how, he was reading that book in the hospital by Thich Nhat Hanh called Your True Home, which is here and now. And he said, John would just say, now. And he got up, packed his tent, and drove down to the grassy park there in front of City Hall, across from the financial center, and he spent the night there in his tent by himself, just himself, sitting, thinking, spending the night. And that was the start of that particular movement, Occupy Winston-Salem. Now, I believe this was the beginning of this meditation of occupying myself. Now, I don't know how many of you, and I won't ask you to tell me how many of you have lost a close friend. My mother died a couple of years ago. I know Dr. Ann's mother died shortly before that. But it's different when it's your peer somehow. When it's someone who is your peer, it's a different experience. They pass away and they're gone. They're no longer here, at least in form. And somehow the profundity of this passage planted this seed in me that's just been a movement inside of me that won't be stopped. It's like a burgeoning, I consider, or a pushing that's going on in me. It is as though I have been experiencing, honestly.
Do you need a way to find new music? Tune in to WPRC. Also hosts with us Signal in the Sky, featuring new and current independent artists. Eric Riddle's Electro World, featuring dubstep and electronica. Tanner Boyd's Laugh, a great comedy show full of laughs and gags. Derek Moore's Moorhead Metal Vault, the headbanger's delight, loud and in your face. Tyler Mullen's Bluegrass Connection, a classic experience and instrumental tradition. WPRC, great radio-style entertainment. Tune into the show, broadcasting on Channel 77 starting at 6 p.m. Also, check us out on Facebook.
And we're back. I hope you guys enjoyed that package I put together. At that competition award ceremony, the Judy Rogers multimedia portion was won by our own student. She's a junior at MSU. Her name's Asa Hasoda, and she won for the media portion, where the content of it was basically about, I think, women and self-esteem, and how if people put positive feedback into their lives, it would make their lives a little bit more better and maybe shine through. So let's take a look at that and see what won that competition right now. And we're back. And I actually was a former recipient of this award, and she definitely raised the bar. So people, next year when this competition comes around, bring your A game, because that was good. Well, we're wrapping up the last episode of the season in my career as Hear Me Roar host, because I will be graduating this next month. But taking my place is good old Shelby Steele. Are you excited?
I'm very excited. I'm really sad that you're leaving, but I'm also very excited for this opportunity, because when I graduate, I want to become the next Oprah, so I feel like this is one step closer to my dream.
So what exactly do you want to do when you graduate from MSU?
Well, I want to work with news and television, obviously, maybe some radio, and just get my foot in the door, and then after that just maybe have my own talk show or something like this, and just, that's basically what I want to do.
Well, this will get your feet wet, because sometimes you just have to be on the fly. But we will really look forward to hearing what Shelby has to have in this next year and what she's going to bring to Hear Me Roar. But thank you so much for watching this season, and I hope you have a great summer. Bye.
Asian Express. Get in and get out fast. Quick and yummy.
I'm so freaking bored.
I cannot handle another hour of the Kardashians.
I wish we'd go bowling.
Me too.
Great.
Your wish has come true. Wilson Lanes, located inside a Laughlin Health Building on campus, has 6 lanes of pure bowling fun. And now with automated scoring. $2 per game and $1 shoe rental. How could you pass this up? Individual career counseling, Eagles in Flight certification program, and the Suit Bank. Don't forget about our career fair, March 13th in the Krager Room of ADUC from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.